Did you know that Unused in Paper Mario is a badge that lets you power bounce every enemy at once, or a badge that does action commands for you? Unused in the game, there's better versions of badges in the final game, worse versions of badges in the final game, and some that show what the game used to be like back when it was extremely different. I'm gonna go over all the badges that are still functional, ones that don't work, and ones that we only have remnants of. In the last video, I talked about why I didn't think Hammer Charge was very useful, and some people rightfully pointed out that it's really good for the Quake badges, so I take back what I said. Hammer Charge isn't that bad. These next two really are though, because they're a third set of charge badges, that instead of increasing your attack power by 2 or 3, it goes up by 1. 1. Seriously, why would this ever be used, even for Quake? Why? Why charge for 1 extra damage when you can just attack for 2? That's probably why it went unused, but it's still just like, why would this even be made at all? Then there's Right On, which costs 8 BP, and it makes it where action commands will always succeed, with this untranslated Japanese text on screen, probably to just tattle on you. I feel like Dodge Master serves the same role of making action commands easier without just cheating. And in case you're curious, this does work with Power Bounce, but you'll still get capped during bosses as if you're not using it, and even on regular enemies. It's good that it wasn't put in the final game because it 100% would have been in my last video because 8 BP is crazy. These next two badges are basically the same too. Special Stomp and Special Hammer are regular jump and hammer attacks where the action commands will always succeed. In the comments of the last video, some people pointed out that the jump timings are hard for kids, who, let's be real here, is the targeted audience for this game. So the hammer, while being worse a lot of the time, it's easier to use for people who struggle with the jump timings. But then there's a badge that just does the easier timings for you. I don't think these are just developer debug badges to make development testing easier, because all 3 of these cost BP and these 2 cost FP to use, which means they were probably meant to be added at one point. And because for some reason there's a 4th one of these badges, there's also Auto Multi-Bounce, which is multi-bounce, but the action commands will always succeed. The description says that it costs 10 FP, which would be crazy if true, but in reality it only cost 5. I could see the application for someone who's really bad with jump timings, especially if they're a kid, because the multi-bounce timing can be pretty weird. So if this is in the final game, I wouldn't complain too much, since the price is actually pretty reasonable, but I'm also not really gonna complain that it wasn't used. This one has no functionality, but it has the name Secret Book, which is apparently the name of a stat boosting item in Fire Emblem. But I'm a typical Smash player, which means I've never played any Fire Emblem game before, so I don't know if that means anything. Fire Emblem and Paper Mario are both made by the same studio, so it's not impossible that this was a test name before they came up with a better one, but with no functionality, description, or even shop price, we can't really say. Also, this has the icon of the present in Chapter 7, but this is just the sprite that's used whenever the game can't load a sprite for whatever reason. And this isn't the only badge with the same icon, so if there's another badge or item later on that has this, it just means that there's no sprite for it. The next one is pretty well known in the community, probably because it was one of the first interesting badges to be found back in the day. This badge, Berserk, will increase Mario's power output by 2, but with the downside that he'll attack on his own. It also makes Mario very red, because I mean just look at the badge sprite, he's angry. I feel like this could be really fun to screw around with if the partners had more functionality, like at least be able to heal Mario or run away when he makes dumb mistakes. That, and if Mario was smart enough not to jump on spiked enemies. Also, I forgot to mention, but you do still have to do the action commands yourself. Some people in my last video defended Happy Heart, but I don't want to see anyone defending Happy Heart. It's Happy Heart, but instead of healing 1 HP 50% of the time, it heals 3 HP, which doesn't stack with the 2 Happy Heart badges. This sounds good, but it costs 10 BP. I really hope this was made before the badge system's balancing was all figured out, because 10 BP is way too much. And like Happy Heart, there's Super Get, which is basically just HP drain 2, decreasing Mario's attack power by 2, but making Mario heal 2 for every hit instead of 1, but still only with a maximum of 5 HP. Just like Happy Heart, this one also costs 10 BP. And the last of the badges that are just badges in the final game but better is Total Saber, which is just a better version of Flower Saber, saving 2 FP per attack instead of 1. It probably wasn't used in the end because it also cost 10 BP. About to mention the last video for the 15th time, But in the last video I mentioned these two, being in-betweens of Power and Mega Jump, and Power and Mega Smash. And I'm kinda sad that these never ended up getting used, because I'd much rather spend the 4 FP of these versus the 6 of the Mega versions personally. I'd imagine you get these in chapters 4 and 5 too instead of 7. I'd probably use the jump attack a lot as a replacement for Power Jump. This next one is also kinda weird. In the final game, there's 3 deep focus badges that all stack, but the last one here in chapter 8 has a different sprite in the overworld, but then in the menus it's just the normal sprite. And that's because it was supposed to be a super focus badge, which is the same as deep focus but 2 times as powerful. If I had to guess, they probably changed it because they'd either have to make it not stack at all, where the 2 deep focuses are objectively better since they cost 2.5 times less for the exact same outcome, or if they did make it stack, you'd functionally have 4 deep focuses, which might have been too powerful. I don't know, it's just weird that they never update the third one to have the normal sprite, or at least keep the sprite and update it in the menus to make the third version cooler or something. Then there's Shrink Smash. I've made my opinions on Shrink Stomp pretty clear previously. It's not very good. But then here's Shrink Stomp, but made even worse. It's the same thing, but with the hammer, which means that you can't hit enemies in the air or enemies in the back. Also, the description is wrong, it only costs 2 FP. And then there's a few very unfinished badges. This one is Shellcrack, which costs 6 FP and does a normal hammer attack. That's it. Maybe it was intended to have a cool function and they just never added it. Maybe it was supposed to crack the shells of Koopas, but it's hard to say based off of the name. Maybe it wasn't meant to be used on Koopas, maybe you got it from a Koopa, I don't know. This badge has no function, no BP cost, and a placeholder description, but based on the Japanese name and the icon, maybe it had something to do with the dojo maybe? Maybe an actual reward for beating Final Master, but with how little is given, it's hard to say anything about it. Then there's a weird duplicate badge. It's called Power Smash and has the same description as Power Smash, but in Battle it's called and functions just like Mega Smash. I don't know what this was ever used for. Maybe they used Power Smash's code as a base for another badge and then gave up right after. I don't know. This badge is probably good that it was never added because it's insanely overpowered, but oh my god, it's so much fun. It's pretty much Power Bounce, but you jump on the ground and hit all the enemies on the ground or the ceiling. So basically Power Bounce Quick Hammer. I can see why it went unused, but this is really cool. How it's supposed to work is that it doesn't react to boot upgrades or jump charge. No matter which boots you have, it only does 1 damage to try and balance it out, even though it still isn't very balanced. But it does react to Power Plus and Power Rush, so you can still be doing 5 damage every turn, to everyone except the one in the front who drops to 1 damage after the second attack. So on the first turn, I did 100 damage to these enemies extremely easily before ending the attack on my own because I got bored. And even though it reacts to Power Plus and Power Rush, it doesn't react to Mega Rush, and I don't know what to make of that. The timing is a little weird. It's not like the Power Bounce timings, so at first I was having a little bit of trouble using it, but it didn't take very long for me to get used to it and started destroying everyone. Also, on the Japanese version, the prompt at the bottom is pretty normal, but on English it says, "Not used any longer," which, like, why even bother? There's another Attack FX badge, this one having the sound of the bushes from Forever Forest. It works just fine. Maybe they thought that 5 Attack FX badges were enough and they didn't need 6, I don't know. There's also 5 copies of this badge, so maybe there's supposed to be 10 Attack FX badges before we're realizing that was excessive, I don't know. And the final unique unused badge that's still in the game is Healthy Healthy, which makes it harder to become poisoned or dizzy, which is just a worse version of feeling fine. Depending on where you were supposed to get it, maybe it wouldn't be the worst thing ever since it's only 1 BP, but I feel like there aren't many enemies that make you poisonous or dizzy before you get 5-star pieces for feeling fine. Also, apparently there's a 50% chance not to get poisoned, but when I was getting footage, it took me 5 tries for it to do anything. I've only ever gotten like 2 Toy Freddy deaths ever, so maybe I burned all my good luck playing UCN, I don't know. And while that's the last of the unique badges, there's also some unused duplicate badges. There's a 3rd copy of Happy Heart, Happy Flower, Flower Saver, Damage Dodge, and Power Plus, a 4th copy of HP Plus and FP Plus, and a 2nd copy of Defend Plus. These all stack with the original badges and function the same. They probably just weren't added for balancing reasons because oh my god, a 3rd Damage Dodge would be so good. I'm not done with the badges yet though, because While those are all of the unused badges that are still in the game, there's some text in the Japanese version that didn't end up getting translated for the English version, which describe badges that either didn't make it past the concept phase, or were removed and only the remnants remain. The first is Goompa and Bob-omb Summon. My only guess is that these were made way before the final battle system was made and partners weren't a constant thing, and you had to use these badges to have the partners in battle. The game did change a ton throughout the development process, so maybe. Also, I'll talk more about this in a future video, but other unlocalized text also implies that Goompa was supposed to be an actual partner, not someone who just follows you for 5 minutes, so I think that's a fair guess to make. There's mentions of a Shrink Smash X, which is different than Shrink Smash, but there's no functionality or description, so I don't know what the difference could be. Maybe it's a guaranteed chance, I don't know. And then there's Alter Ego, which as far as I'm aware isn't a Lethal Company reference. It would have split Mario into 2 copies, reducing the chance of an attack hitting. I imagine a second Mario would appear and enemies would target one or the other by chance, like the Crystal Kings or the one Magic Koopa. Functionally, this is kind of the same thing as Close Call or Pretty Lucky or Lucky Day. So if they weren't in the game, this could either be pretty good or extremely overpowered, depending on what the BP price would be. There's another badge with the same functionality and name, but even better because you can still use action commands, which implies that the last one you weren't able to. Yoke Yoke, I think is how you pronounce it, makes it where even when the action command isn't pulled off, it'll still be considered successful, which just sounds like right on from earlier. Somewhat related is Yoke Yokeru, which makes it where when the action command is pulled off, no damage will be taken at all, which just has to be a debug badge made for the developers, right? There's no way there was meant to be a badge that effectively made you invincible, right? Then there's Sub In for a Partner, which would let you turn into one of your partners for 3 turns. In most situations, this probably wouldn't be that great, but it would be a pretty fun strategy against like General Guy since he has a lot of defense for this stage in the game, and Watt can pierce defense. I'm sure that there's other situations where it may not have been optimal, but it could have been pretty fun. As long as this came with some sort of downside, this could be really cool. Making it rare or really expensive probably would have been enough. Upper Hammer would let Mario do an overhead jump smash to attack airborne enemies, which just sounds like the same thing as Hammer Throw, but instead of throwing the hammer, you'd jump up in the air holding it like you're doing Hammer Charge maybe. Hammer Return is described to, if the action command is successful, brings out the hammer against the enemies attacking up close, doing piercing damage based on the current hammer level, which, just like the last one, just sounds like D-down pound to me. There's also the same thing, but with jumping. And the final badge is Painful Jump, with nothing about what it would do. If I had to guess, maybe it's basically just Power Jump or Mega Jump, maybe D-down jump, but I don't really know. And those are all of the unused badges. I've known about Berserk for a long time, and using the practice ROM there's a cheat to enable Ride-On, and I've known about a few other ones. But before researching for this video, I didn't know just how many there were. I thought there were like 5. This is part 1 of what was supposed to be one really long video going over all of the unused stuff in the game. But right now it's looking to be like 50 minutes long, so I'm gonna be splitting this up into multiple parts. I'm not about to make a video that long. It's gonna be maybe 5 or 6 parts depending on how long the script has been, but we'll see. Also, before I end the video, I had this whole part scripted out and then I recorded this whole part, but so much has changed in the last 2 days that I'm just doing this whole part unscripted. So the last video I uploaded did extremely well. It's easily become the best performing video that I've ever made. It's single-handedly given me what I need to join the partnership program. As of recording this, I've already applied to Tier 1, which will give me memberships, but the only thing holding me back from Tier 2, which is what gives me ad revenue, is another about 50 subscribers, which at this rate, I'm gonna get in like a day or 2. This is a really exciting time right now, so if you're watching this, you probably came from the last video, and if you saw that video or if you shared it with anyone or anything, thanks, it helps a lot. I've never had to reply to this many comments before. So anyways, stay tuned for part 2 of the series, which I think is going to be about like battle mechanics and unused enemies and bosses and stuff.
And anyways, bye.